You know, the word campaign is a war term. We think about it so much in terms of elections, but it is not. Its origins are not that. Campaign is a term of war. And they've kind of merged, haven't they? Well, I know someone who knows a little bit about campaigns. I know someone who knows a little bit about the war that we are in for our culture. And I want you to join me in welcoming to the stage my husband and the greatest Attorney General in the state of Texas and in the United States, Ken Paxton.
Thank you. You guys are really blessed. Not only is she the best senator that District 8 ever had, and I happen to have had that job, but she's just an amazing person, an amazing wife. We actually just celebrated her 39th birthday on Valentine's Day. And, you know, I have a lot of pressure on Valentine's Day because it's, you know, it's two things. And so every year I just feel this, like, oh man, I've got to do better than last year. So this year, I took her, we love to ski, so we spent 3 days skiing in Park City. And then I had to come back to this ridiculous hearing that I have no control over in Houston, which is not in my county, by the way, and should be. And so it kind of mucked up my little plan, but I had been working on this thing for 6 months, and it finally fell into place. And so we flew out to Orlando, and it turns out that one of her favorite musicians, most of you probably never heard of this guy. His name is, Andrea Bocelli? Bocelli, yeah, that guy. So I worked it out that we had 3 days at Disney, but on Sunday night in Orlando, we were able to go in with two other couples, and we got to go to his dressing room and meet him. Wow. And got pictures with them. I didn't really understand the Italian, but it was still fun, and his wife interpreted for us. And then he gave us tickets. We were in the 5th row, center stage, for like, truly, I mean, sitting there I just kept thinking, this is greatness. This is greatness. And then I thought, this is not what the Texas House is like. It's not like this. But anyway, did I do okay? I did okay. So
It's a great start.
Okay. That's an inside joke that we'll just have to come back to. So,
Isn't this a leap year?
Yeah, right? So I have 5 amazing people. I want to ask you all, first of all, I have so much respect for what you're doing because this is you have to sacrifice so much with your family, financially, time. You have to take a beating. The left is not on your side. The media is not on your side. So I want to ask each of you to raise your hand if this has turned out easier than you thought. Raise your hand. Okay, let's try this now. How about kind of what you thought? It's going to about equal to the pain that you thought you get to. Raise your hand. Okay, well Chuck says it's equal. How much would say it's harder than anything you ever thought it would be? This is the truth. You see all this stuff. What you all see is not what they have to experience. And so I just want to thank you all for doing this because this is so important to our state. I don't think there's ever been a more important time, at least not in my lifetime, not since I've been here. And it's not just our state, this is our country that we're talking about, because if we lose the state, then we're going to be a one-party country, no different than Venezuela, where they let some Republicans be in office, but the reality is your vote doesn't matter anymore. They're going to just run the show from the top. And it's going to be, so that's why I'm so sort of passionate about what has happened to me since this summer. For those of you who did not know, I was impeached this summer, just in case you missed that. And it was tough. I mean, it was like maybe harder than some of the campaigns I've been through because I had no control. I didn't have any money. They put me in a time after my campaign when I'd run out of money, spent $16 million, so they knew I didn't have any money because we can't raise money during session. And they did it in 3 days. They didn't disclose any of their information to you or to me because they didn't want to. And by the way, I found out there's a couple of guys that have been out campaigning for some of these House challengers, Brian Harrison and Nate Chetzline, and these guys are heroes. I mean, true heroes. They take such a beating in the House because they speak out the truth. And of course, the worst thing you can do the House to be liked is to tell the truth. That's like the absolute greatest sin in the Republican-run House is that you tell the truth. And they were called in before the impeachment. And they were like, look, we really got to have your votes. We want all the Republicans to do this. That way we can say it was a Republican, deal, and he deserves it. And they were like, okay, well, so far, we haven't seen any evidence. And they said, well, we gave you, the transcript from the 3-hour hearing that these lawyers came in and talked about. They said, well, first of all, those guys weren't under oath, and they're not even witnesses. We don't even know who the witnesses are. How about this? Can we talk to the witnesses? Well, no, we're not going to we can't let you talk to the witnesses. Well, we should have a chance to question these guys. Well, no, you can't do that. Well, how about just hearing Ken Paxton's side of the story? Can we bring him like him and hear what he would have to say, even though he doesn't really know who's bringing these charges against us? There's no accusers. And they said, no, I'm afraid we can't do that. And they said, well, how about just having more time than 3 days? This doesn't seem right. I mean, there's no due process here. No law Texas law is being ignored. There's these laws about swearing in witnesses. There's laws about not removing people from office for things that happened prior to the election. That all of these things seem to fit the law. Well, no, I'm sorry, we're not going to do that. Well, then why? This doesn't make sense. Why? Does anybody know what the answer was? The answer was because if we give him more than 3 days, he'll get out of it. In other words, we don't want the people to know about this because then they'll know, and they'll know this is a sham. And this is what our state representatives decided was a great process. The first impeachment, probably the most egregious impeachment in the history of the country. And I'm going to tell you right now, I am glad that it happened. I'm glad because it showed you what our Texas House has become before it's too late. And we're on the verge of it being too late. And the motivation that created for the grassroots and for people to get out and run, I'm glad it happened. And it's the story of Joseph, where, he was kind of a smart aleck, probably brother that deserved to be hated, but not be killed. And his brothers were going to kill him, as you know, and then they sold him into slavery hoping he would die. And he ends up in a position where he's saving Israel and saving his family, and he says, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. That's what this impeachment was for me. And so I've used it as a catalyst to recruit people to go across the state since September, working on House races, because I've watched for 15 years as the Texas House has just become a disaster. And it started while I was there. The first 6 years I was there, we had a Republican speaker and we voted on Republican issues. And if you were a Republican, you knew you could get your bills heard, and very good chance if they were good, you got them passed. When Joe Strauss came into office, and this is how it happened, 76, 74. Does anybody know what those numbers mean? 76, 74. We went from 86 Republicans, and then Obama was elected, and during that election, we lost a lot of Republicans. And it was a 76 Republican majority to 74 Democrats. We actually saved that tie. Linda Harper Brown won I'm not kidding, 25 votes. That was the difference between a tie. But it didn't matter. The Democrats figured it out. What did they do? They block voted for the first time ever. And they went and got 11 Republicans to join them. And as soon as that happened, there was a stampede of Republicans to go help the democratically elected speaker by the Democrats. It was a Republican, but he was elected by the Democrats. And for 15 years now, that has been the strategy of the Democrats. The House Republicans don't vote together. They figure out which Republican can get a deal with the Democrats by offering them the most. And the Democrats say, well, which Republican will give me the most, give us the most? We don't want border security, done. We don't want election integrity, done. Joe Biden has asked us, because Paxton sued him 60 times, has asked us to get rid of him, done. That's how the impeachment came about. And then Joe Biden sends them 2 lawyers to help them. And I don't know if you know this, but Joe Biden sent, first of all, anybody know a guy named Hugh Brady? Hugh Brady is the parliamentarian for the Texas House. Where did Hugh Brady come from? He just isn't like a regular lawyer. He's an Obama lawyer. He came from the White House Counsel. Do you know where the White House Counsel sits? I used to go see the White House Counsel during the Trump administration. I have not been invited recently. But that office is right above the Oval Office on the 2nd floor. So you literally come down the stairs and you kind of take a right and you're in the president's office. That's where Hugh Brady was. But not for Trump, for Obama. This is the guy that decides the rules on the House floor. So if you have a problem with your bill, or you don't have a problem, there's an objection, and the Democrats say this Republican bill has a problem, he gets to decide whether it's a real problem. I just want you to know that's not an advantage to us. And it's just, the media doesn't talk about this. Then, for my impeachment, 5 members of the General Investigating Committee. They're the ones that brought the charges. They did all this secret work for 4 months, so you wouldn't know about it, so I wouldn't know about it. And guess what? 2 of the 4 lawyers came from the Department of Justice, not under Trump, under Obama. Is that just a random, just kind of accident? I don't think so. This was all planned. And so today, the people of Texas can take this back. For the first time in 15 years, we have a chance. And there's so much momentum. I've been on, just today. Well, I want to tell you a little story. I just got back from DC. I got to tell you about this case. And then I'll come back to this because this is an example of the kind of things that I am so fortunate, so blessed to get to do. So the Texas legislature, thank goodness they passed this. It was a bill that came out of the Senate, and it was designed to protect you from social media companies discriminating against you based on your viewpoint. It's called viewpoint discrimination. And of course, they call this content moderation, which is a euphemism for we censor you. Now, we don't censor. It's content moderation. We get rid of all, and they present all the craziest stories. So I'm at the U.S. Supreme Court listening to all the crazy things that they're protecting us from. This, just the war, terrorism and white supremacists. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about conservative speech. And their argument is this: we're just, we have to protect we're a business. We're not subject to the First Amendment. But on the other hand, they have protection from Congress. Congress has said, because they told Congress that they were just a platform and they didn't make editorial decisions about who could be on and who could be off, and therefore they shouldn't be liable for anything that's on their platform. So guess what? They have special protection. There's no liability for what's on there. Anything can be said one way or the other, and they are not liable. However, then they argue on this side, we have the right, because we're a private business, to have these editorial decisions. And so they're arguing they can discriminate against anybody they want to. So that was our case yesterday, and it was so much fun to be there and watch my team look Justice Kavanaugh in the face and say, yes, you're saying they're a private business, but they're arguing both sides of this case. They're a common carrier, and they are obligated to be honest about what they actually are, which if they're going to say that they're open to everybody, then they ought to have to follow through on that. And so that's the case that we had yesterday. And I got back last night at 1 a.m, got up early, and I've been to 5 different locations. And meanwhile, we got a victory on another case today. Did you all see that? So awesome. Everybody told me I was crazy for filing this. We sued, I don't know if you've ever heard of her, Nancy Pelosi. We sued her. We sued Congress for passing a $1.7 trillion spending bill. Why did we do that? Because we figured out that they didn't show up to vote. They proxy voted. It was COVID proxy vote, so more than half the members weren't there. They were in Europe and all over the place, and they had their buddies vote for them. The Constitution requires that they have a quorum present. Quorum present. No matter what you say, you can't get around those words. Quorum present. And they tried to argue they didn't really mean that. That they couldn't have known about technology, and therefore, that's not what the Constitution says. Change the Constitution. So this judge today came out and said, we asked for an injunction on the things that affected Texas, some very bad things that affected us, and we got it. So this is a good win. And these are the things. So I'm booted out of office. I can't do anything. I see that they're cutting down our fences. They're cutting down our wire. I also had just brought up the fact that I thought I was investigating this little company called Pfizer. That's what I always call them Pfizer because that's what it looks like. For lying to us about vaccines. And we have enough information now to tell. I can tell you, they lied to us. I don't care whether you got one or you didn't. It doesn't faze me. They lied to us. They said it was 95% effective. We believe it was less than 1% effective. And then they tried to censor people. Content moderate people. I'm sorry, I said the wrong word. Content moderate people so that they didn't tell the truth. So all of this is stuff that didn't happen until I got back. That Jeff Leach, Candy Noble, Frederick Fraser, who's the one I'm missing? Matt Shaheen, moved me out, so I couldn't do anything about it. So I just want you to know, as soon as I got back, I sued them over the fence and cutting the fences down, and I sued Pfizer over the vaccine. And those are the types of things that for some reason these state representatives decided, you know what? We need to listen to our great leader and the people in Austin, Texans for Lawsuit Reform. Have you guys ever heard of them? How much money have your opponents gotten from them? And then there's also ARTUs run by Karl Rove, those two organizations. And then there's Dade Phelan who gets his money from them. If you add it all up, millions of dollars are coming in against you. Is it from you all? You guys funding their opponents? No. You know what? They don't need you anymore. They don't need the people of Texas. They don't need your people, their own constituents. They're dependent on Dick Weekly. And if I were you, I'd never buy a Dick Weekly home again. Don't ever buy a Weekly home. They are so pro-immigration. They love all this stuff Biden's doing. They claim they're Republicans, but they do not help us. They help the Democrats, and they help Dade Phelan, and they help the Biden administration. So the very people that are funding them are spending millions of dollars. This is what they're having to put up with, are the people that claim to be on our side, and yet they're not. And so today, we have a great chance, and of course, I have to say this, because I always have to say this, we also have this little problem with the Court of Criminal Appeals. Has everybody heard my story about that? Yes. Okay, I'm gonna just tell you, you have to go vote for, I'm gonna give you 3 names, because they struck down my ability to prosecute voter fraud. It's completely bogus. They said I didn't have the ability to go to court, that I wasn't allowed to be in court. Does any of this make any sense to you? I'm not allowed to go to court. I mean, that's what I do. And yet, suddenly, I can't go to court? It's the most insane decision, and they claim, Michelle Slaughter, I'm an originalist. She's either, I'm just gonna say, she's either the biggest liar ever, or she is the dumbest lawyer I've ever met. I'm just sorry. It's just not right what she did. And thank goodness, President of the United States, first I got his son, Don Jr., endorsed all of those members challenging, because I told them these are the most important race, along with the Texas House, that we've had since I've been there. It's more important than my race. Because if we can't save the Texas House and we can't save the Court of Criminal Appeals, we are not going to survive this. We are going to have voter fraud, and all your other issues, whether you're pro-life, whether you care about gender transition, which apparently some of your opponents, can I name them? Candy Noble and Frederick Fraser and Matt Shaheen all voted to keep funding these hospitals that take care of changing children forever, who are not. They're not adults. These are children that are changed forever. And I hope their church knows about this, because I'm surprised that they would support it. They would support them knowing this.
They endorse it.
That's shocking. And that's sad to me that a church would endorse people that focus on funding hospitals to do these horrible things to kids.
What about Abbott backing Leach?
What's that?
Abbott backing Leach.
So I cannot answer for the governor. I will say this. I am sad that any of, whether it's Dan Patrick, who's also endorsed some people that I wouldn't have endorsed, or the governor, if they're endorsing Dade Phelan people, they are enabling Dade Phelan to come back. And I wouldn't do it. I would not endorse anybody that supports Dade Phelan, because he, no matter what you say, it's just like what Angela talked about. If you are putting a speaker in place that is going to destroy good legislation from the Texas Senate, and that's going to stop good Republicans in the House from passing legislation, which is exactly what Dade Phelan does, if you're enabling his lieutenants, who Jeff Leach and Candy Noble and Frazier and Shaheen, they're all part of this. They've all bought in. They get their money from there. I'm going to tell you one quick story about Jeff Leach. You know, I recruited Jeff Leach to don't boo me. I recruited him to run. And he was, I did not see it coming. And I supported Matt Shaheen. I supported Kenny. I didn't necessarily support Frederick Fraser. I will never say that. But I supported the other 3. They seemed like our kind of people. They had our values, but they have sold out completely. And I can tell you this story about Jeff. It was the most disappointing thing. I mean, since I was friends with Jeff, I met Jeff when he was student body president at Baylor. He was 20 years exactly before me at Baylor as student body president. I was 20 years before him. And so I knew him when he was at Baylor. I've known him a long time. I got him to run. I helped raise money for his race. And here we were. These guys in my office turned me into the FBI for, as you know, no evidence. I had no idea what they were talking about. Just made up stuff. They didn't even tell me. And guess what? My friend Jeff Leach, what does he do? He puts out a letter claiming that I'm not doing anything and wanting a report. He does it publicly. He didn't call me. Doesn't say, hey, Ken, my friend. We've been friends for a long time. No, he puts out a public letter accusing me of not doing anything, and he wants a report on the last 3 weeks of my office while all this chaos has gone on. And you know what's funny? I was chaos for sure, and none of these guys would help me. They're trying to sabotage my letter to Jeff. We got this letter put together, and I was amazed. It was like one of those 3 weeks, we had done so many great things. We'd won Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court cases. We won a great Texas case. We just had this amazing list. And I sent it, instead of just to Jeff, I sent it to the entire legislature, and it shut him up for 3 years. But that's the kind of guy Jeff is. And he's not there to support conservative leadership. Jeff has bought into that he's important in Austin, and he's going to take care of the people in Austin, and all of your opponents have done the very same thing.
All about
And
himself.
It is not about you. It is not about our conservative cause, and I think you can see it. We all see it. And so I am pleading with you to, first of all, pray for them. Pray that God will deliver us from this problem, because we've had it for 15 years, and these are the people that have stepped up to change it. And I don't think it's an accident. I don't think it's an accident that any one of you is here. God has a purpose for you, and it is good. And we know that. And it's going to be great. So, we got 1 week. And I've been saying this all over the state today. This is my 5th place. And it's just been so fun to see people out there that are doing exactly what you're doing, whether it's in Houston, whether it's in San Antonio or Austin, it doesn't matter. They all have the same fight. I just left Shelley Luther and David Lowe and yeah, it's been great.
And Annie Hopper.
And Annie Hopper. And just great people that are just killing themselves trying to serve you. Remember, they're trying to serve. They're trying to change this. So I am just, pray for them, pray for our state, because we know God can do it, even if it seems impossible. What are the odds that all of this happened, and all of a sudden, we've never seen anything like this in my time since the Democrats took over in 2007 or whatever that was, 9. We've never seen this kind of revolt from the people. I just want to encourage you to just call every friend you have, because they don't know who to vote for. They're not going to know. They're going to get the mailer and they're going to go, yeah, wow, I can't believe Daren, what? And you guys, wow, you're that bad? That's just, they don't know. And if you tell them, wait a minute, none of this is true, it's actually just the opposite. These are the people that have let us down. They will believe you. And if you call your friends and family and you beg them to go out and vote, both for Court of Criminal Appeals and for our great state House challengers, I know that the people can change this. And I know that God can deliver us from this problem. And it has to be now. It can't be next time. It can't be 4 years from now. And I believe that God will, looking back, history will tell the story. Just like we look at the founders, so many of them that signed the Declaration of Independence, I think most of them had a lot of trouble after that. But look what they gave us. The story will someday be told about us, this small group of people that went out and changed Texas and changed the country and kept our country a place that we could pass on to our kids, our grandchildren, that they would be free and that they wouldn't have totalitarian government, which is what we're heading for. So I just want to thank you all for giving me the opportunities to go do the Supreme Court case yesterday and to file this fun lawsuit against Nancy Pelosi and win. So I just want to finish and say I am grateful for this amazing opportunity to tell the story about what happened to me. But now, looking forward, it's going to be a story about how they changed Texas. And I want to thank you again for everything that you're doing, every moment that you've not slept, for the money that you've spent on your own resources, for the pain that you've endured, for the attacks that you've endured. And here's the great thing. If you win, it's only just going to continue. So just know that you're just beginning. This is not, what did Winston Churchill say? 2 things that I love. And I thought about this every day during my impeachment. He said, if you're walking through hell, keep going. First thing. And I think he also said, if I can get this right, you're not at the end, you're just at the beginning of the beginning, really. And that's not the quote. What is this quote? Can anybody remember it? Yeah, Google it. Anyway, you guys are really, you're just at the beginning, and it's just going to be great. And I look forward to working with you guys in the Texas House, and we're going to change this place. God bless you, and thank you all.